All right, welcome to this explainer. Look, if you've been using AI to help you write software lately, you've almost certainly felt that creeping sensation that maybe, just maybe, the AI is driving the car and you're just kind of along for the ride. It usually happens right after a feature successfully compiles. I mean, it works, but you suddenly realize you have absolutely no idea how that newly generated API route actually connects to your database schema, or what exactly is going on inside that massive React hook the AI just dropped in. That fear of silent regressions and unmaintainable architecture, it is incredibly real. But today, we're going to fix that by mastering two distinct, incredibly powerful tools inside Claude Code: planning mode and thinking mode. So let's start with a brutally honest question for all you engineers out there. Are you losing control of your codebase to vibe coding? It's this funny little term floating around the developer community, but it describes a very real, very modern trap that so many of us are falling into without even realizing it. Vibe coding basically happens when you ask your AI to build a whole complex system entirely at once. You fire off a massive prompt, the AI starts furiously spitting out files and refactoring logic, and pretty soon you're just asking it to fix bug after bug while you completely ignore the actual underlying code. The aftermath? It's brutal. You end up spending hours untangling this giant spaghetti code mess because you didn't properly review the logic as it was being written. Your pull requests become these unreviewable blocks of mystery code, and when that happens, you aren't really engineering software anymore, right? You've basically been reduced to a glorified prompt jockey, just hoping the AI's vibes are good. Okay, here's a quick look at our roadmap. We're going to cover the vibe coding trap, mastering planning mode, mastering thinking mode, the ultimate developer script, and finally, setting developer guardrails. Section 1. The vibe coding trap. Doing everything at once literally makes your life harder in the long run. When you don't break tasks down into logical, manageable checkpoints, you get completely sucked into that vibe coding experience. You lose the crucial ability to manually verify your code step by step. But more importantly, you lose your internal mental model of the system. If you let an AI write 500 lines of interdependent logic across 6 different files in one go, future debugging becomes nearly impossible. Why? Because you don't actually understand the foundational architecture. You effectively surrender your role as the architect and become a mere spectator in your own project. Section 2. Mastering planning mode, otherwise known as the architect. You can turn this mode on inside Claude Code simply by pressing Alt+M. Just cycle through the auto-edit options until planning mode is enabled. Now, planning mode acts purely as a project manager. It lays out the blueprints without actually touching your logic. This is absolutely brilliant for tasks that have a wide breadth of changes across several different files. The individual edits themselves might be simple, but the blast radius of the update is huge. For example, if you need to rename a core authentication utility function that's imported across 30 different UI components, planning mode is going to perfectly map out that sweeping structural change for you. The internal mechanics here actually keep you firmly in the driver's seat. Step 1. Claude searches and analyzes your existing files to understand the current state. Step 2. It proposes a highly specific action plan, listing exactly which files will be created or modified. And Step 3, which is absolutely the most critical part, it awaits your green light before writing a single line of code. That await step is your ultimate safety barrier. It's the manual approval checkpoint that stops a hallucinating AI from accidentally wiping out a critical config file or completely nuking a production environment. But, you still have to remain highly vigilant. Consider this real developer war story from the YouTube channel Net Ninja. He asked Claude for a very simple drop-in avatar component. Now, Claude successfully analyzed the codebase and correctly proposed placing the component in the global UI folder. Great, right? But then it got totally trigger-happy. It went ahead and decided to create a full, entirely unwanted avatar web page with dedicated routing, complete with a brand new header link in the site navigation. He literally had to stop, go back, and manually delete those generated pages. So this absolutely proves that even with an AI-generated plan, you cannot just blindly hit accept. And this really highlights why we need two distinct modes. Planning mode is our wide-scope architect, triggered by Alt+M. Thinking mode, on the other hand, is our deep logic philosopher, triggered by specific prompt keywords. They serve highly complementary purposes. Planning mode prevents massive structural mistakes across your file tree, while thinking mode prevents deep, localized logical flaws from ruining a specific function. Section 3. Mastering thinking mode, or the philosopher. You absolutely want to deploy thinking mode for tasks demanding intense, deep reasoning. Say you're figuring out how a new React comment system perfectly interacts with live, real-time updates. You were likely dealing with some incredibly tricky race conditions and state management there. Or if you're designing database schemas from scratch or implementing highly secure authentication flows. These are the exact moments you desperately need the AI to stop, take a breath, and really reason through the architectural logic and all those edge cases before it does anything. So how do you actually trigger it? Well, you literally just type these keywords directly into your prompt. Just typing think gives you basic reasoning. Telling the AI to think hard or think harder pushes it into an extended reasoning mode. And if you're tackling an incredibly difficult engineering problem and you need maximum brain power, you can explicitly type ultra-think. But you have to remember the trade-off here. The harder you ask Claude to think, the more expensive prompt tokens it's going to burn through while it's reasoning. But the absolute best part of burning through those tokens is the transparency you get. While Claude is working, you actually get to watch its thought process rendered in faded gray text right on your screen. Every time it ponders a variable type or debates a specific data schema choice, it prefixes it with thinking. This is incredibly useful. It lets you catch the AI making a fundamentally bad assumption early on. If you see it going down the wrong logical path in that gray text, you can just hit cancel immediately. You stop it right in its tracks before tokens are completely wasted on writing bad code. Section 4, the ultimate developer script. This script right here, it's basically a developer cheat code to ensure perfect execution. You start by saying, think hard about implementing this feature. First, provide a deep reasoning process that forces the AI to deploy the philosopher for the complex logic. Then, you seamlessly pivot. Once complete, use planning mode to generate a step-by-step implementation plan that forces the safe, structured execution of the architect. Finally, you demand it break this down into small logical chunks so you can approve each stage individually. This single combined prompt completely mitigates the weaknesses of both modes. It is, without a doubt, your absolute best defense against the vibe coding trap. Section 5. Setting developer guardrails. Because even with that perfect script, you really need defensive programming strategies in place. First up, always break massive features into smaller chunks. Second, ruthlessly use the no button. Seriously, you are the boss. If Claude's generated architectural plan isn't perfect, say no. Rejecting a bad plan and forcing the AI to adjust it is a core part of a healthy workflow. It's not a failure. And third, lock in your project structure using a persistent Claude.md file. Let me show you exactly how powerful that file actually is. Going back to our NetNinja anecdote where Claude randomly created that crazy header link for a simple avatar component, he fixed this by updating his Claude.md file with this exact rule. Only add header links for page components, not UI or other drop-in components. This file acts as the persistent memory for the entire project. By adding this one specific instruction, he ensured the AI respects his architectural rules across all future coding sessions. Talk about a lifesaver. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, absolutely critical question to ask yourself the next time you open your terminal. Are you going to let AI code for you, or will you start architecting logic to code with it? By mastering the deep reasoning of thinking mode, enforcing the structured execution of planning mode, and leaning heavily on struct guardrails, you can finally escape the vibe coding trap and get back to actual, real-world software engineering.